Hello and a very warm welcome. My name is Aayesha Varma and you're watching Hindustan Times. Let's tell you a bit about man's best friend. On August 11th, a Supreme Court bench comprising of Justice J.B. Pardiwala and Justice R. Mahadevan issued a directive to Delhi's municipal authorities to remove dogs from the streets and relocate them to shelters, going against ABC guidelines. You have a massive outcry coming in from animal welfare activists and ordinary citizens, not just in Delhi, but across the country. But you also have many who are celebrating and who are happy to have the dogs off of the streets. Joining us at this point, we want to welcome our guest, Ms. Radha Ahluwalia, an animal welfare activist.
Thank you for having me, Aisha. This is an uncomfortable time for us. It is an unexpected time for us, and thank you for making the time to speak with me.
Absolutely. You know, Delhi has had about, I think, over 20 years, 24 years to implement the ABC program in the capital. Why do you think it failed?
I think the causes can be many. Most of all, it is institutional capacity. I think the municipal corporations, as well as the NDMC, who are tasked with this, may not have had institutional capacity. The NGOs that have worked alongside them, whether in vaccination or indeed in sterilization drives, often quote the inability to cope with and the sporadicity with which these drives are conducted, and the inability to cope with the lack of linear, steady progression. I think NGO capacities are also stretched to the maximum, unlike in many parts of the country. A lot of this is outsourced, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it needs a parity of intent with very clear expectations of where this is going to go, working to timelines, etc. And I think that's been the primary failure. Apathy, the inability to of civic society, people like me, to step up to do more, perhaps would have played a role as well. And I think that's where we are in the mess we're in.
There are many people who are also pointing out that MCD funding that's been given for the ABC program has not been utilized properly.
These figures are hard to come by, but whatever we do read, I think you are spot on. I think there is, you can put it to misappropriation. If I'm honest, you can put it to a lack of utilization for what it is, and a redirection. But it is true that the government's intent over the years has not been lacking, but it is in the execution and in those cadres where I think there is a challenge, and somewhere leadership has to step up to say, this is where I hold accountability, and I think that's been a problem.
Absolutely. Ms. Ahluwalia, there is an editorial that was published by a senior advocate which has put the focus on this directive, quoting his statement in court where he said that he would not be stopped by the law. How do you see this?
I'm stupefied, as indeed are millions. He is such an incredibly qualified legal mind from all that we know in the public domain. So this is inexplicable. For this to be a sudden case, suo motu case, and for there to be such a ruling which is in direct contravention to the apex law of the land that governs street animals, and dogs in particular, I don't know. It defies logic. It defies. I won't go towards the humanitarian element of it, but it just it cannot. It cannot even hold, as far as I know. But I'm not one to comment. The Honorable Percy Billimore, I think, is the person who wrote this, and
Yes.
he is spot on. He is spot on.
And one of the questions that is being asked by some is there are many animals that are being culled for food, such as chicken and goats. So, why the outrage over dogs being removed? What's your take on this?
You know, you can stretch an argument any which way. It depends on who's arguing. But to liken a street animal, uh, not reared. I'm vegetarian, I'm vegan, so yeah,
Mm,
but that has nothing to do with this. But to liken street animals to those that are commercially bred for the meat industry um, is ludicrous. Are we in some way then saying, okay, that's the next step that they go and then so how can you liken it to something like that unless there is some horrific intent like that, which I cannot believe in civilized 21st century India.
Many are saying that because there is no shelter that is in place. I mean, you do have shelters currently, but they're in such a dilapidated state that, and many have discussed this already, especially over the last few days, you do not have the capacity. It would take too much time, definitely not 8 weeks, but a lot of time to be able to take in and shelter all of the dogs on Delhi streets. So many are pointing to this as being evidence of actual hidden culling.
Nothing surprises me after the August 11 ruling. Nothing surprises me if that were to be the case. But at this moment, it's it would be a bit sensational to think that that is so. There are many that say no, the dog meat industry, so on and so forth. But I'm not
Hmm,
sure we want to go down that route. I'm simply
hmm,
saying there is a globally proven, an India proven way to manage street dog populations. I do not think if you see these millions of dogs suffering in a million of them really suffering in heat, in rain, hoping for that one meal that some feeder may be able to afford, they can't want to be there, but they are free and that is their home, whether they like it or they don't like it. To put them into shelters that will do justice to simply a decent standard of that short life that they have, you would need a lead up of project execution and funding that is
hmm.
neither available nor willed at the moment. And it is taxpayer money that is going to end up doing that. I won't, there are people that have said, feeders are subsidizing. Um, all of this. I mean, technically, yes, but I don't think that's why feeders do it. They do it because they have a sense of compassion, a sense of duty, and we leave it there.
Hmm.
But to have the prospect of all of these shoved in, if this capacity to manage existed, we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. We would have had systemic inflow into shelters for the sterilization and vaccination, sterilization drives, vaccinations are on the road. They're not meant to be taken in. And there would have been a SETI outflux. And in the last 2 decades, we would have been looking at numbers dramatically different. Goa has done it.
Exactly.
So many
Only if
countries.
the program was implemented properly. But
Yes.
as somebody who works in animal welfare, tell us more about what has happened since the directive was passed.
So, I have friends who are activists. I'm an animal welfare uh, person, if you will. It's what I've just done my whole life, literally. Everything I hear is we have verified reports of uh, dogs being picked up from different colonies. Now, you can say, is it private? It's not the MCD. That's not what I'm saying. Uh, I'm saying there are categorical cases in a number of colonies where in the last 3 days, dogs have been picked up and taken away. Have they gone? Even vaccinated, sterilized dogs have been picked up, notched ears. So, what explains that? And this is what happens when you're uncertain. And so, in uncertainty, um, I don't think good ever abounds. I think only uh, uh, negative elements will flourish. So we've heard that that is happening. We have videos. I have a young niece who was at India Gate the first day. All of these young 20-somethings holding their candles. We're a free country. We became free because of a largely non-violent struggle from foreign control. Um, and today you have these tons. Yes, you can justify that was India Gate. It is just before Independence Day. And, authorities may have been in their rights. But there's a way to approach it. There are videos of a young lady being roughed up by a policewoman. Now, I
Hmm.
know the girl that was standing next to her. So, what are we regressing to? All on account of something that looks to us to be entirely ad hoc and will not solve the issue? You want to solve the issue, then bring people together that can. And do
Cooperation is
it
what you're
to
saying.
account, yes, and collaboration, and do it with accountability, even hold civic society. Let's not say that it's only the government's job. Even civic society should be able to step up to say, let us know what needs to be done. But you can't randomly act just because who you're acting technically against won't even know. I don't think they know. I don't think the dogs on the streets know what may be coming for them. It's very hard. Everybody thinks, no, no, there's no emotion to be brought into this. I have friends that feed hundreds of dogs every day. And they have relationships with them. And you're saying you're just going to pick up that dog and take him away with no accountability to the person that's looked after him all this time. On, through every lens, this is not correct.
Ms. Ahluwalia, last but certainly not least, um, as we mentioned earlier, there is a large number of people who they're very happy about this directive that's been issued by the top court. And what they do quote is their fear when it comes to rabies, when it comes to biting incidents. How would you respond to them? What would you say in light of this directive? And if you combine it with that fear, what would you want to say to them?
Aisha, you can't wish away fear. And fear is not always logical. If you have a family that is frightened, and there are many that have had no cases of bites, no exposure to dogs at all, but they just live in fear of dogs.
Hmm,
So you cannot say that just because I love animals, and I do a lot of work in wildlife as well,
hmm,
in terms of contribution, uh, you can't say to them, no, no, it's stupid to be scared. I I
hmm.
respect that fear. But I'm saying
Absolutely.
today, if you're fearful of this, is the approach, let's take away that fear because somehow we have the rights to the world. Dinosaurs had rights to the world.
Hmm,
They went in one meteoric blast. So I'm saying, where's the humility to say, I'm frightened. What can we do about it? Right? There's that case that, in Jorbag about a man who was bitten, and he said, I'm going to see to it that this dog gets his vaccine shots,
hmm,
and there are wonderful cases like that. Um, you can't wish away with the fear. And
hmm,
I respect that fear. I have friends who are frightened. I'm not going to say it's
hmm,
nonsense and no dog. Like there are human beings that can be dangerous, there could be dogs that are dangerous. Just
hmm,
like human beings can also transmit rabies, dogs transmit rabies. Far more monkeys transmit rabies if
hmm,
you look at it statistically. And the monkey bite data also exists, but there's no justification to a bite. But there is a proven approach,
hmm,
including of a dog that has bitten, gets tested for rabies, will be put down if he's rabid. If a dog is considered uh, aggressive,
hmm,
the authorities are within their rights to take him for a 10-day holding period for observation. But you
hmm.
can't wish them away. You cannot wish them away. So for so many who are frightened, I understand. What I can't understand is
Hmm.
people believing that it is their right to the road, it is their right to the lawns, it is their right to everything, and not anyone else. That in the India that we have, which is still
Hmm.
developing, uh, I, and the India that we have, which has a millennia of coexistence, right,
Hmm.
with all kinds of beings, that I think is absolutely unrealistic. You have to find a way, and you have to collaborate. Look at the world today, because nation after nation isn't collaborating. Look at how merrily volatile everything is. So no. Respect the fear, but this is not the way. You can't wish it away. Tomorrow you become the ones to be wished away. Should you get closed up and taken away?
Ms. Ahluwalia, thank you so much for joining us, giving us your perspective on something that has, for lack of a better word, kind of exploded over the last few days
Yes.
because of this SC directive. So, more developments are expected here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you for making the time to speak with me. Thank you. And for highlighting what is a critical issue. It's a moment in history. Let's not waste it to show the world who we are. Thank you.
Absolutely.